Hello and welcome to the Car Camera Review channel, and welcome to the 2025 Ford F150 Lightning. And in today's video, we're going to do a proper technical review under the hood or the front. Take a look underneath it, inside and out, some things we like, some things we do not like, right after this. Let's start our technical review under the hood. Some of you will say, well, wait a second, there's no hood, this is a front for storage. How about now? That's what I mean. Let's start talking about it, because electric cars really are classified, I guess, if you would, with a thermal management system, because unlike a gasoline car where you have an engine that generates infinite amount of heat, you don't have that in electric cars. So the tricky part becomes, how do you heat and cool the cabin? How do you heat and cool the battery without affecting the efficiency of the system? That's really what it's about. So let's talk about the thermal management system of this, because it's actually pretty interesting. This has three cooling circuits. One of them is for the battery, the high voltage battery. One of them is for the heater for the cabin. One of them is for the electronics, or like all the battery charger, the inverters, and everything in between. And they kind of intertwine and work together to achieve the efficiency of this, of the thermal management efficiency of this vehicle. Let's talk about the battery circuit first. This one has two valves, or kind of diverter valves. The battery has coolant going through it to cool it, because lithium-ion batteries are pretty tricky. You don't want to run them too hot, obviously, and you don't want to run them too cold either. So this circuit will have a dual purpose: heat up the battery or cool it down. So this will have two valves. One of them allows the coolant to go to another heat exchanger where the coolant can get super cooled by the refrigerant. So there's a little heat exchanger that has coolant going to it and refrigerant. That's in a case where the battery is very hot and the coolant alone can cool it. But if that's not the case, there's a second diverter valve that sends that coolant to the radiator to cool it down, and then that's sufficient to cool the battery. Then the second circuit is going to be for the electronics. So you got the inverters, the onboard charger, all these components, they generate heat eventually. So you have coolant going through them to cool them down, or harness heat from them to cool it, to warm everything up when it's very cold. So this system does have a variety of valves. One of them is actually a 5-way valve. So it's not quite the 8-way valve of the Tesla, but it does have a 5-way valve, but it's only for coolant. It does not integrate refrigerant with it. And then the third circuit is for the heater of the cabin. And let's talk about that. This car has a heat pump system, a vapor injection heat pump system. Pretty sophisticated. Pretty cool. If you're not familiar with what a heat pump system is, it's basically a regular car's AC where the condenser's outside, hot side, and the cold side, evaporator inside. The heat pump system has the ability to flip that, where we send that hot part inside to warm up. Not directly in this car. Let's talk about it. Because this is an F-150 and because there is a gasoline model of this car, they didn't want to reinvent the wheel and redesign the whole HVAC box inside the car. So they just use a heater core inside, and the hot refrigerant will exchange heat with a coolant that will go inside and warm up the cabin. They just kept it simple, and that's actually the simplest way to do it. It does lose a little bit of efficiency of that exchange and all the hoses and whatnot, but it works. Now here's the interesting part with this car. There is no coolant heater. There is no PTC heaters inside. Nothing. They just went with it. There's just a heat pump and that's it. That's actually a pretty brave way to do it, because the range in this car actually holds pretty well. We didn't drive it in extreme cold. That's usually where most electric cars suffer. But we did drive in extreme heat. 95 degrees, continuous, very hot days here. Did pretty well. The range held very well. AC full blast, range held exceptionally well, and that is a good part. Now, this truck does have 3 battery options. If you go in the lower trims, you have a 98 kilowatt hour battery. It does have up to 240 mile range. And then in the mid range, you have a 123 kilowatt hour battery, range up to 300 miles. On the higher trims, you have a 131 kilowatt hour battery, with a range of 300 up to 320 miles. The thing about that is, though, do we really need 3 batteries? I think it's kind of on the small side. And the 131 is more like it. Maybe just skip the 98, just have the 2, because these trucks are pretty expensive. Now, having said all that, the way I'm going to describe this electric system is pretty brave. And there's a lot of really good engineering behind it, because the ability of having this big frunk, although this is a much bigger vehicle, they did that part well. I feel like that whole shelf, you notice that everything is centralized in the back area. That's where your compressor is tucked all the way back, all your heat pump system, all your valves and everything. You do have some bleed down in the front because you have this giant wide open area here because this is a big truck. But the only concern I have is the HVAC lines are everywhere, and these are tiny little lines. I mean, there is one service port that is super interesting to me why that is the case. One of the service ports for the HVAC, they literally had an entire pipe with a hose on it. This is a giant over elaborate thing just for service port. I mean, the other service port is buried in this area, so why does that? No idea. The only busy part in this truck is the HVAC system. It's extremely busy. And I feel like all that busyness in an extreme condition, extreme cold, extreme hot, is going to have some losses. That's the only part. However, the result works. This system works. It is complicated. It does have a lot of stuff. Some of the plastics could be better. But overall, a lot better than the Ford Mach-E. I'll tell you that much. Let's take a look underneath the 2025 Ford F150 Lightning. Let's start in the front. You do have one of those aerodynamic flaps that comes down. Got a motor that brings it down. So we're seeing that a lot, new trucks. You do have a little fabric cover here, and this one, pretty heavy duty cover, because if you come around here, that's where the front motor is. That's the electric motor that drives. Now, the axles could use some paint, but it's just how they do things. Let's take a look at the front suspension here, because something before we get into the suspension, this is a body and frame truck. I feel like they took a frame from a regular F-150, modified it for this. It's pretty interesting. So, front suspension, you have a lower control arm that has a ball joint built into it. It is a steel lower control arm. Upper control arm is also steel. You do have an aluminum knuckle. And axle, like I told you, could use some paint. The sway bar links are the plastic type. You can see the ends of it. The inside is plastic, the body is steel. Massive caliper, 2-piston caliper here. I mean, yeah, you can say we could use it, but this has regen braking, so hopefully they'll last a long time. And then we get here, more covers. And these covers are, yeah, you're not damaging anything with these. Whatever you hit, you're going to damage that. Then we start with the battery, and this is where it's normally in a regular F-150, this is where your transmission is and transfer case and the rear axle. But you don't have all that. You just have a giant battery. Talked about the 3 options of batteries. But watch how they mounted it to the frame. This is pretty interesting. Here's the frame. You have this massive bolt and you have a bracket. I'm assuming at some point you have, I'm assuming it was this one. This is what resembles your transmission mount would be right here. Is about lengthwise, I think it would be somewhere here. I don't think this one looks too far forward. Although it's possible. One of these used to be the transmission mount, but we don't have that here. But what I love about it is this construction of this battery. I mean, just look here. This is not the frame, folks. If you come around and look here, this is not the frame. The frame is here, up here. This is the battery. Look at that. That's beautiful. I mean, the protection on this battery is incredible. They really did a good job on this one. Then we go in the back, and this is where things get extremely interesting. If you've ever been underneath a truck or an F-150, yeah, things are wildly different. There's no solid rear axle. And the reason for that is you got a motor right here. If you come around and look at it, there's a giant motor over here with an inverter built into it at the top. So F-150 Lightning has rear CV axles. Also could use some paint. Here's what I think. The last Ford F150 we reviewed, it had leaf springs. It was a platinum, if I'm not mistaken. So the leaf springs will mount right there, and they will come up somewhere around this area. You notice there's no mount here, but I think, and this is just not accurate information, I'm just my hunch. This is actually, they use the same mount for the leaf spring to put this massive control arm. Probably designed it for that. I mean, this thing is massive. Just very strange. Now you do have a kind of a coilover strut here, twisting setup. It's a little bit slanted, has this massive bolt here. Interesting design here, because they kind of repurposed the rear, because usually these has a solid rear axle. They put this. Now this does have a single piston caliper in the back with an integrated park and brake. And then we get to this small complaint. Small. Not the spare tire. Love the spare tire. I mean, I really like it, except the tread depth on it is almost non-existent. I'm assuming this is a temporary tire, because the tread is very low. But my problem is, I mean, it's electric. There's no exhaust. Look at this. Yeah, it's wide open. Oh, you can see all the way to the top of the bed. Same thing on the other side. A little cover here, maybe even for aerodynamic, maybe would be nice, but no. And then the trailer hitch is actually bolted to the frame. If you come around and see it here, it's bolted to the frame, and that is actually nice. If you damage that, hit it, whatever the case, separate from the frame, you can replace it separate, and that is pretty cool. Really like these covers. I mean, they did that part super well. This truck is fully covered up. You could take it off-road and go to town, and not other than that front little fabric cover, nothing really would happen. It's just all these heavy-duty covers. Really like that. Let's take a look at the outside at the F-150 Lightning. So the grille is completely closed up. That's just how the fashion of electric cars is. But if you look down here, you can actually see the radiator and the condenser. They're slanted sideways and up, so it does have all that. Some folks assume it doesn't. It does. And then we have this giant light that runs across the length of the truck. I'm assuming they're going after a Cybertruck with that one. But one thing I have to be said about this, it really looks good. Not really big on this grille, looks kind of odd, but the rest of it looks pretty good. I really like it. Everything just fits right, I feel like. As we walk around here, we just have to stop and say, so this truck is kind of a spaceship on wheels. All technology and electric car stuff, and we have had to keep that. I don't know why that's not integrated into a back glass somewhere else that is not just sticking around here. I guess that's how they did it. We look at the side. Otherwise, other than the different headlight in the front, different taillights in the back, this is exactly just an F-150, which has a lot of really good stuff about it. Let's talk about them. Biggest thing I love about F-150s is this. I've been doing this for a while. So this dip is not some weird design. This actually gives you more visibility, because the mirror now can sit so low that you can see over it when you're sitting. This is a brilliant design, and it makes visibility so much better. No other truck comes close to this design. This is beautiful. The only downside is that you kind of can see half your side of your dash when you look through the window, but I'll take that. That's not a big issue. The trims on the Lightning. This one is a Flash. It's interesting names. They have, I think, the XLT or something like that. Then it goes on from there, Flash, and then Platinum and whatnot. This particular one, the Flash, is the second trim, second kind of from the base model. It does have an interesting button for locks. Not really a button, it's a touch capacitive thingy, but it's only in the front, not in the back, which is totally understandable. As we get back here, you notice it says Lightning. I really like this. This is very cool. Sometimes looks are important. Then let's talk about this taillight, because it's a very interesting design. But the blind spot is integrated right here. The sensor is inside the taillight. Good thing is you don't have stuff behind the bumper and all that. Bad thing is it makes the taillight very expensive, because now on top of it being a very cool taillight, you have a sensor inside of it as well. Then we get to the back here. I love how they did not overdo this. They did not write Lightning, dual motor, kilowatt hour battery. They didn't get carried away. It looks exactly the same. It says F-150, that's stamped. And then it just has this little logo in the American flag. Love that. That is super cool, super classy. But what is not super cool is this bed door. You know, you go buy a base model truck from 10 years ago, it'll have a soft open bed. This one, sorry Ford, but we had to do it. $75,000. One feature that's actually nice where you can, you know, some people will say, well, it's a truck, you can handle it. Yes, but it's nice if you have stuff you want to load up. You just do this, let the thing come down while you're getting ready to save time, since this is a work truck. And when you look at the bed here and all these markings and everything that they have here, there's a tape measure here. This is a truck that's meant for work. I mean, you even have the place here to put a clamp so you can clamp something down as you're working. Same thing on the other side. And then you have this thing, which is a step to step into the bed. Even has a little handle so you can hold it and step into the bed. All F-150s have that. It's not exclusive to this one. It's actually a pretty nice feature. I think this works. Just wish this back door would just kind of come down with a shock or something. Now, you can option the F-150 Lightning with a Pro Power outlet deal. I mean, look at this. You have 4 outlets here and a 220 outlet. That is very helpful. If you're a contractor, someone that uses this as a work truck, this is super helpful. But being an electric car, there is one more place that you can actually put stuff. Let's go look at that, which is the frunk. They managed to actually make a pretty decently sized frunk here. It's powered. It does take its time. We're okay with that. Here's what I don't understand before we get into the front. The front is power and all this fancy gizmo, but the back bed door just slams down. Maybe this was not power, I would get it. You know, just open it with regular shocks. Back one has shocks as well, I would live with that. But this one has shocks. They're integrated, the motor is integrated in the shocks. Pretty decent size. I mean, this is a pretty big place. This is very usable. You have a little bit of storage area here to hide stuff. And then, breaking it already. The Pro Power package gives you even more outlets here. 4 outlets, USB-C and USB-A. That's actually pretty useful. This is not a gimmick. This is very useful. What I like about this is they also give you a little button to shut off these lights, which really light up this place. That's pretty cool. Now over here, this is another thing I like. It's just a little panel, and here's the world's smallest battery for the biggest truck. I get it, it's electric. All this does is just power on the electric system, but that's a very easy place, not buried behind a bumper or in a place where you feel like they intentionally don't want you to find. I can live with that. It's right there. Very simple. And the last couple things we're going to talk about, the charge door. Is this going to have a flimsy door? We always test electric cars. Absolutely. Look at that fender. Why do they always do that? All manufacturers do this, not just Ford in their defense. So you do have fast charging here. I like that the fast charging part does have a door, but this one's always exposed. I mean, they do have a tiny little seal here, but cover would have been nice. Then the next thing is, this is a Ford. There is no little buttons here or numbers to get into the truck. At least in this particular trim, it doesn't have it. Let's take a look at the interior of the F-150 Lightning. There's one thing I have to say, there's not a lot of difference between this and the regular F-150, and that's the best part. I mean, electric cars don't have to be these strange cars that nobody knows how to operate other than the very select few that love them. You have a start button, you have a normal shifter, it's just an F-150. You won't even notice it's electric until you start going and there's no engine. That's the best part about it. Let's talk about some of the things in the interior here. I mean, They gauge it all. It's a big screen. I get that. There's no RPM. There's one whatnot. It's a pretty decent screen. Does a few things. Steering wheel. I love it. It's a very basic steering wheel that does everything you want from a steering wheel. Controls. Very basic, very big lettering, and very nicely laid out. I actually really love it. Infotainment screens, one of those big iPads in the middle, very responsive. Does have wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. You have this big volume knob. The only thing is your HVAC controls are all on the screen, but hey, at least it's a good infotainment system. It's responsive, doesn't feel generic. It's actually pretty cool. Then there is the shifter. Of course, this electric car, you expect buttons or some weird shifter. Now this has the same thing as the other ones, and it can do one of these deals, disappear, so you can put your McDonald's breakfast right here. Super gimmicky and very flimsy, but hey, I can live with that. Just don't put it down if it breaks down, and we don't have to worry about it. The best part about this interior is not really materials or design or this and that. Function. It feels like a professional interior. It is meant for the working man or woman that need a working truck. The storage is very well thought out. Every feature works. The visibility is great. It's super comfortable. It just feels professional. That's the feeling. You know, I own a 2024 Toyota Tundra. I love my truck, but this feels professional. I see the difference. That's all. I mean, the leather material here is not a nice type of leather, but it feels like a very good wearing leather. It's like meant to be used. That's the feeling here. All the storage is really well laid out for actual use, not just to say, oh, look at this cool storage here. And the best part is, all this, because this is an electric truck, it's pretty quiet. It's pretty smooth, pretty refined. I really like that part. And the visibility, because of this dip in the door, I love it. You can see over the window. I mean, for someone short like myself, I'm 5'7", this is really helpful. I love it. I can see out. Very comfortable truck. They really did this part right. But the same can be said about every F-150, not just the Lightning, though. Let's take a look at the back seat of the F-150. I mean, this is my driving position. I literally have a mile in front of me, mile on top of my. It's a very comfortable back seat, folks. This is the best part about this. It's such a usable back seat, and if you can fold these seats up and use all this space for tools, items, whatever, what have you, it's a pretty nice place to be. This is very functional. You can sit 3 adults here very comfortably, and that's the best part about it. So, the F-150 Lightning. Folks, I am a little bit divided on this one. I'll be honest with you. Let's talk about it. The F-150 part is really good. There's no other way to say it. It is a very functional, very well thought out, and just mature truck. It's a serious truck. It's not a family hauler, although it'll do that very well. But it's meant to be a work truck. It's serious. It has features that are actually usable as a work truck. It's very comfortable, very smooth. It's meant to work for you. And it's honest. No advertising material have said this will last 20 years without a single problem. That's not the intended purpose. For the time that you have it, it's not going to disappoint. But that can be said about every F-150. Now, the Lightning part, I have one question. Why do we need an electric truck to begin with? That's the first problem I have. Although, the truth have to be said, as an electric truck, it's actually not a bad one. The range holds, at least in our testing. It was a little bit higher temperatures, upwards of 95 degrees with high humidity. Actually held up pretty well, the range. That is very good. You have multiple battery options, and everything about the F-150 that is good, you didn't lose it here. That is pretty cool. It's pretty fast. That is one thing you gain with it. But my biggest problem is, it's pretty complicated. As an electric car, there's a lot going on in the background, and the build quality, it's a lot of plastic, a lot of stuff. There's already reports of some issues. So I am not the biggest fan of the electric part. I'm just gonna, especially in trucks, because a work truck, electric, not the best idea. But we gotta say the truth here. If you are really after a electric truck, I will tell you one thing. There is a Chevy Silverado electric truck. There is others that are out there. But comparing this to one that we've actually tested, which would be the Tesla Cybertruck, I know some of you will jump out of your seats laughing, but we gotta say the truth here. If you are looking for an electric truck that is a show-off truck that just will bring every single attention in the planet, buy this hybrid truck. But if you need an electric truck that you will actually use as a truck, I think this one is pretty serious, because the F-150 part is the best part about this car. Not really the Lightning part. Truth have to be said, and this is what I will suggest. Just know, for the high prices that the Lightning command, you can buy almost a fully loaded, top-of-the-line, non-electric version of this truck, which is a very good truck. Truth have to be said, folks. That's why they sell the numbers they sell, because they're really good. But that's thanks to the F-150 part. And everything that is good about this one is also available in the non-electric version. So I'll leave you with that thought. Folks, I hope this video was helpful and informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some other videos. Until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.